Today, I'm chatting with Whitney, a sex educator who donned the term sexuality doula. She guides women on their journey to sexual liberation and healing, and she does this through teaching workshops, working one-on-one with clients, being a dope-ass Instagram influencer, and hosting a podcast called Sexually Liberated Woman. As she describes it, she helps people come home to themselves, and we could all use a little bit of that.
Sexuality is on a spectrum, and I feel like also the comfortability in your sexuality is on a spectrum, because I feel like some people are either very reserved, or they're like very explicit. There really isn't any visibility of the in-between, in my opinion.
I'm really glad that you brought that up, because that's a thing that comes up a lot within my work. I mean, there are some of the people that I work with who want to have that sort of Beyonce partition sort of like feel and look and vibe to their sexuality. And there are some people who are like, I want that, but I want it to be private. Like, I don't want anyone else to see it. And it's not about me being a prude. It's just about like my personal values, my personal comfort levels. Sexual liberation is not about being sexually explicit. It's not about having multiple partners, being polyamorous, like busting it wide open for all kinds of people. Like, sexual liberation is self-defined. It's something that you get to choose and decide what that looks like for you. I think it's really important for us to not put sexual liberation in a box and to not have it be defined by outside sources. My job, my work is about excavating what sexual liberation means for you individually, and not from an outside source, not from what culture has told us it should look like, not what media has told us it should look like, not what our grandmothers have told us it should look like, but what exactly do we want our sex lives to be like? What kind of relationship do we want to have with our sexual bodies? What kind of relationship do we want to have with our sexual partners? And what obstacles do we feel are getting in the way of that?
So let's say if someone's going through a phase where they aren't feeling as sexual, is that something that someone should be alarmed about, or is that just a natural thing for people?
Well, that depends on the person. I mean, we live in a society that is simultaneously telling us to keep ourselves small, but also to take up space. And particularly with sexuality, it's like, don't be a hoe, but be a hoe. You know, it's really confusing. We get all of these really conflicting, contradictory messages. And we don't actually sit down and take a moment to ask ourselves, how do I feel about this? Like, am I okay with not being sexual right now? Like, do I feel at peace with that? And if I don't feel at peace, where is that coming from? Is it coming from an outside source that's telling me, well, you should be sexual because everybody's having sex and everyone's having the best sex of their lives and having orgasms all over the place? Or is it because, like, well, yeah, I am putting a shit on myself, but I feel kind of okay with not focusing on my sexuality?
Sometimes even in your own relationship, like, you know, Black men can constantly comment on like a girl's ass, whether it's big enough, or that's happened to me plenty of times where my ass isn't big enough, or, you know, having that insecurity about that when that's something that you can't do anything about. How do we like figure out like, okay, this is who I am, whether you like it or not?
We have to be the ones that create ourselves in our own image. We can't do it from someone else's lens. We can't do it from the male gaze. We can't do it from white supremacy's gaze. We have to do it for us. Like, being able to stand in front of a mirror naked, not to titillate, but just to be comfortable with the way that we look. Because we cannot enter into sexual spaces. We cannot try to be sexually confident beings if we don't like the vessel that we are sexual in.
So then you feel like when we go into sex, we shouldn't be worried about what the man thinks of what we look like?
Absolutely not. Whenever we are beginning to lay new foundations of who we want to be as sexual beings within our sexual liberation, within our sexual healing, that we don't do it from a place of performance. And what you're touching on right now about like not thinking about the man is saying, I'm going to dismantle and like dislocate myself from the male gaze. Like, my sexuality is my sexuality, not because a man validates it, not because a man says to me, you are sexy. I am sexy. I am sexual because I say so. the conversations that I have with my white clients versus my Black clients are different in that, like, for us, our sexual trauma, our sexuality is racialized because of slavery, because of white supremacy, you know? And so I think that that is a really important thing to remember, that while, you know, Karen, I don't know why I thought of the name Karen, but
Hey.
while
Probably
Karen,
yeah.
right, it might be a Karen or a Megan. While Karen or Megan might feel like, oh my gosh, I feel so much sexual shame regarding my body. Someone like me or you might say, I also feel sexual shame within my body, but it comes through this lens of racism. It comes through this lens of anti-Blackness. It comes through this lens of misogynoir. That's not just like, oh girl, just take some photos of yourself, you'll feel better. It's like, no, we have to really decolonize and dismantle white supremacist patriarchal capitalism. And that is a journey that we have to take every single day throughout this process of sexual healing and liberation.
Even with the sexuality of white women, like, we are sexualized where white men are like, oh yeah, they want to have a Black woman because they want to see what it's like to fuck a Black woman. We're degraded in a way that's different. Yep. So I'm sure that seeps into the bedroom of people in their personal lives.
Absolutely. Yeah, we are objectified because of our race. You know, I mean, there's a reason when you go onto one of the, you know, porn tubes on the internet that's the most popular, that we have our own section called Ebony. You know, like, we don't get to be sexual beings by ourselves. We're always sexualized based on our race. That is some deep shit that just isn't going to go away with a session with me, or 5 sessions with me, or 10 sessions with me. Like, that is systemic oppression. But the thing that we can do is to try to disentangle ourselves from that, and to continue to affirm within ourselves, by ourselves, on a daily basis, I am a sexual being. I am not an object to be fucked. I am not someone that you can conquer or claim. Like, I have sexual agency. I have sexual needs and desires. And I want you to see me in my humanity. You know, those are things that we get to say to ourselves, that we get to empower within ourselves.